Hello, everyone. Welcome to CareersTalk. My name is Priyanka, and this is the second video in the Kanban series. In the first video, we talked about Kanban fundamentals, its principles and practices. In the second video, we are going to talk about a Kanban board, how to create your own project in JIRA. So we are going to use JIRA project management tool for setting up Kanban board. There are some other tools as well. If you're a beginner in Kanban, you can use Kanban tool as well, which is another very user-friendly tool. Then you can create your own workflow, prepare your Kanban board, set up WIP limits and swim lanes. So we are going to talk about all of this stuff. Along with that, we will see how we can really manage these WIP limits. In our upcoming series, you will videos in the series, you will see discussions about Kanban metrics, when to choose Kanban, and Scrum. So let's get started. It's gonna be a practical session more around how to set up your Kanban board in JIRA. So we'll be working directly in JIRA. So let me just share my JIRA here, and you can just simply sign up to JIRA, create your own website on atlassian.net, and it'll land you here on this page where you can just go to your work section and to boards, and you can just click on view all boards, and there's an option you will see here which says create board. So we'll just create a new board from here. As we are learning Kanban today, I'll just create a Kanban board, and you will see three options. How to board created with a new software project from an existing project or some existing saved filters. So if you have a project set up already, you do not have a Kanban board tied to it, or you have one Kanban board, but you want a new one, then you can create it using an existing project. If you want some specific tickets or specific tasks to appear on your Kanban, then you can use a JQL filter for that matter. But if you want to start it from scratch, like we are doing today, you can click on board created with new software project, where a new project along with new board will be created, and you'll just click on next. As you go here, it will ask you to give a name to your project. So I will give it a name as Kanban JIRA, right? So this is the name of my project, and the project key it has created is Can, and the project lead is Priyanka. Even my name here, since I am administering it, but we can choose someone else's name as well. Now it will say me, it will create a board along with a project for me, which will be, the board name will be named after the project key or the project name. And we can always rename our board if we like to, right? So let's see what it creates for us. Let's create this board. It says project my Kanban project uses this project key already. So this key has been taken. So let me give it a name KB_JIRA, and my project is now KB_JIR, right? And let me create this board. Right, so it creates this board KB_JIR and the project name KB_JIRA. Right, so it gives me a board already. We are all set to start our work. We have 4 columns: backlog, selected for development, in progress, and done. So you can start putting your work into backlog section, whatever you have in your requirements, and one by one you can start picking them into selected for development, in progress, and done. So this is all set to be started. However, in real time, the work is not that simple. We have so many other requirements. We are working with a bigger group of team, and we might need some additional columns that are not right now here. So we can always customize the columns in this board or customize this workflow. So let's see how we can really do that. For that, you just need to go to the settings, and there is this option called issues. As you see here in issues, it talks about you can configure your workflows and custom fields, issue types. So I'll just click here, and on the left hand side, you will see these workflow section. You just click on this workflow, and there are some active workflows already. But I want a new one which is specific to our needs. I'll go to add workflow, and then I'll create a new workflow. I'll have to give a name to my workflow. So I'll give KB JIRA, which is my board's name, and then workflow. You can add any description if you want, and you just add it. As you add it, it will give you the screen. You will see a flow here, which will start from to do. The rest of the field statuses, you can add whatever you want to create. So I'll add a few statuses like to do is already there. Next I would add is in progress, right? And I'll just add it. Then I want QA verification, and QA will verify it. So new status. As I added, it'll ask me for category. So now in Kanban board, we only have 3 categories: to do, in progress, and done. Right? So any status you create, it'll either be mapped to do or in progress or done. Right? So our QA verification is actually the work in progress. So I'll choose this category here and I'll create. Our next one for the one I want is ready for pre-prod, right? This is another one I want to add, and I just add it, and again it's an in progress status, and agree. There could be other sections like PO verification and review. There could be as many as you want, but for the purposes of this demo, let's keep it. Let's add one more. Let's add review, right? Again, this is categorized as in progress, but as an existing status, so it's not asking me for category. It is already tied to in progress. So now I have created all these statuses. Let me just sync them in the right order. First, it will be started, then in progress, then review. Somebody from the reviewer, dev would review it, then it will be QA verified, and then it will be ready for pre-prod. And last, there's one more which is done. At last, it will be done. I just added. It will be mapped to category done. That's why it's green. Now that you have created the statuses, let's add transitions from where to where it will move. So from to do to in progress, let's give this transition a name. It's progressing. It could be any name of your choice, but it has to have a name, right? So this is progressing. And then you can also transition it, add transition from here. In progress to review, it is again progressing. The same transition I can use same transition for moving from one status to another. Then here from review to QA verification, I will again put it as progressing, right? And I'll add it. And then QA verification to ready for report. I'll give it verified. Give it a name as verified. And then from ready from prod to done, I will give it a name as completed, right? And then I will add it. So this is my new workflow that I want to see on my board, and I have created it. Now, once I've created it, I will go back to my projects, my board, and see, can I see there? Obviously not, right? Because we have created the workflow, but we have not really published it. So again, we will have to go to our workflow section. Under issues, I go to issues and then workflows. And then you see the workflow that I created was this one, KBJ workflow, which is still inactive. right? So to make it active, I will go here, I'll edit it. Actually not. I'll go to workflow schemas rather, and you edit it from here. You will assign it to all the issue types, right? And then you will publish it. You associate it. And then you add a workflow. And this is your workflow that you created. You are adding it into schema. You will see it here. And then under here, you see a next section, next button. Click on next and again select it for all issue types and you'll just finish it, right? And then publish again. You associate. And then it is updating your workflow schema to be KPJIR, right? And you are acknowledging it. Amazing. Now you see, go to workflows again, and you see this here, KBJ workflow, which is one that you've created into active workflows, right? Now, your next step would be again, go back to project C. If you still see the flow here, again, you cannot see it here because now your workflow has been published, but you have to configure these columns. For that, you just go to these board settings on your board, go to columns, and here you can see all these columns here, but these are unmapped. Then this is Kanban backlog, which is a free space, a dedicated space where you can add your team's work. So, and these are some of the statuses that were there in the original flow. So backlog, I am putting it here, okay, in the dedicated section. So now this backlog I don't need, I'll put it as to do, and I'll map the status to do, right? And then selected for dev, I change it to QA verification, right? And then QA verification, I put it here. Selected for development, I don't need, I'll put it to unmapped statuses. Next in progress was already there, so it will stay here, and then it should be before QA verification. Next I have is ready for pre-prod, which is not here, so I'll create a new one, and I'll first create review. I'll pick this here and put it into review column. So I'll map it to review column. Then the last one, I'll create ready for pre-prod, and then I'll move it to here. Sorry, I first need to pick it pre-prod, ready for pre-prod, and then you have to mark it to just appear on the screen. And then pick this unmapped status and move it to mapped ones. Now all of your statuses are moved. Your done should be in the end. So let's move it here, right? So all of your columns are now set. Backlog, let's just unmap it for now to keep things simple. So this is how board is looking: to do, in progress, QA verification, review, and ready to pre-prod and done, right? So this is how your new board should look like. Let's go to projects and your board. Actually go from here, just back to board. And now you can see your new flow here, right? I'm again going back to configure settings, and I'll show you some WIP limits. So when you configured your columns here, you will see this section now, minimum and maximum. These are your WIP limits. So for the purposes of setting your board, let's see how we can configure these WIP limits. To do, I am keeping a maximum of 4, minimum is 0, or minimum is 1, I would say. In progress, no minimum, and the maximum is 2, right? QA verification, again, I am keeping it 2. Review, I can have a maximum of 4. Ready to pre-prod, I want to have as 4. And then done, there are no limits, right? So this is how I have put the limits. Now I am going back to my board. And you will see the WIP limits here, right? Now let's start with creating some new tickets. Now you see it in yellow because there is a minimum 1 that you need, but we do not have any tickets. So let's start with creating some tickets. So I'm creating some random tickets for the purposes of this demo. So it's user story 1, and I'm not adding any description. I am just putting it a title, no adding any description. But once you create a work on a real project, definitely you should add as many details as possible. And then your user story 2 I've created, and I have created a third one, which is user story 3, and a fourth one, user story 4, and then a fifth one, which is user story 5. Now that I have created 5 user stories, you will see them all initially in the to-do section. And you see it as red because you have set a maximum limit as 4. So rest of your more than 4 shouldn't be here. Rest of your tickets, whichever are more than 4, which are your high priority 4, can sit here. Rest should be in your backlog. Right, so here you can start moving your tickets from in progress to Kanban. So I'm moving some tickets from here and there. And then you can move your tickets from these statuses, and once your limit WIP limits exceeds more than 2, it again makes it red, telling you that there is a bottleneck here. You have made a queue here which should not be here. So start moving your tickets from here. And we will learn more about how to manage these WIP limits a little later in this video. Right? So this is about WIP limits. Next, we have to go to our next part in this video, which is about swim lanes. Now, swim lanes are really interesting and really helps to manage our projects, which is if there is a particular ticket which is of highest priority, you can put it in an expedite lane, and there's something by default created within this board, right? And if you want to see more swim lanes, then you can definitely create them yourself. Creating a custom field is one of the options that I'm going to explain you here now. For that, again, you need to go to settings, and from settings, you need to go to issues. Under issues, you will see this option called custom fields within fields. So just click here, create your own custom field. So maybe swim lane, SWLA is something I'm creating by clicking on create custom field. So I want to have a custom field wherein I can have different options, and I want to select one, right? This will be a field, new field into our tickets. You just click here, and then I go to next, and then I'll give it a name SWLA, which is my swim lane, right? And then you can add any description, and some of the swim lanes could be standard. So any ticket could be a standard one. And then expedite, if you want to expedite a ticket. It could be time bound. If there is a specific time bound for a ticket, you want to complete it within that time. It could be intangible, right? Some ticket which is not adding any direct value, maybe a database update, a server upgrade, a database upgrade, some technical enhancement. These kind of tickets could be under intangible. So I've created 4 options here, and I'll just click on create, and it will create those custom fields. Let's just quickly check it. This is what I create. Okay, so it is asking me which screens do you want to look at. So I want to see this new field on all the screens. So I'll just select it all and I'll update it. Right, and then let me check if it has been created. It is here, right? And if you click on these three ellipses here, you can add further, edit further details. You can add a default value. So let me add a default value. So every ticket, whenever it will be created, the default value will be standard, right? So that's my default. Right, so my default is now standard, and now my swim lanes has been created. Now your next step would be to again go back to your project, your Kanban project, and add this swim lane into your board settings. Right, so you see this option, issue detail view. Go here. In the general fields, you see all the fields that are there for the tickets. You will also add to have this new field which we have created, SWLA, and just add it. Once you add it, you'll start to see this field appearing in your tickets. Now I will go back to my board, and this is this user story 5. I'll just open it. I'll see it here, like swim lane here on this field, and I'll put not standard, but expedite for this one, right? And another one, user story 1, I'm using a swim lane time bound for this. Sorry, saved. So I'm choosing intentional, okay? Okay, time bound. It's not BLE, it's intentional is what I've written. Okay, now I will just close it. So now I cannot see these swim lanes because I have to create a query to add these swim lanes. I'll go to the swim lanes section and I'll need to create the queries to see them appear in my board. So my query will be intangible, and default query will be SWLA equal to intangible, right? And okay, I just added, right? And then time bound, right? And my swim lane would be time, and then I added. Similarly, WLA, so it will be standard, and my SL would be standard, right? Standard. I just added. So once these are added, I'll go to my board and I'll see, has the signals created? Yes, they are created. Time bound, as we added one here. You see it here, it's expedite, but we have not configured it. So in the board setting, swim lanes, this original query of expedite, we need to just delete it because we are not doing a basis priority now. We are doing it basis SWLA, right? So again, I'm adding it. And in my board, you should be able to see expedite, time bound, and everything else, right? So this is how my board swim lanes can look like, and it really helps. Similarly, if you want to configure these boards swim lanes with the help of assignees, that is another thing that you can do. So to pick assignee, and then your tickets will be swim lane basis assignees. You can also color your cards basis priority, basis assignee, whatever you want. This is about swim lanes and WIP limits and creating a workflow. Our last part is about how we can really manage these WIP limit. So if you see we have a WIP limit of like too much, then it will create a queue, which is not a good idea, and it will not balance our workflow. And if we have a very less WIP limit, maybe 1, then our rest of the team members would be sitting idle. So the best approach should be have is to find out a limit which is suitable for your workflow to be balanced and not creating any queue in the system. Now, how do you figure out what is a best WIP limit for your project? And I think there is no right answer for that. I think this will come up basis experimenting in the team. You will have to review your WIP limits for a period of time, maybe 1 week or 2 weeks, and see how it is doing for you. As a there's no thumb of rule, but as you know, as a starting point, what you can do is you can just assign WIP limits basis the number of people working in the team. So if there are 2 reviewers, giving 2 as WIP limits for review, and see if this works for you. So there are no optimal magic numbers, but if you see this 2 is not working, or if your flow is not working, then you will actually figure out whether this problem is because of your team, any bottlenecks or any team member, or it is because of the WIP limits, and that will help you figure out further refine your WIP limits. So there's no one size fits all answer to this question that what should be the optimal limit, but it comes from flow efficiency, your regular experimenting and adapting as we need it, right? For example, taking again the example of review column, if you see that reviewing takes less than actually building. So if you see that reviewing is being done early, you can have 4 as a WIP limit for reviewing, so that your reviewers are able to, do it early and there are no bottlenecks. And this is how you can manage your WIP limits. There is another rule you all must have heard of, that multitasking always tends to reduce the productivity. So never multitask and always do one thing at a time. So that is why, as a starting point, try to use a WIP limit as per the number of team members in it. Now, the next question that comes in your mind could be that can we go against the rules, and can we go above the WIP limits that we have defined? So again, there is no right or wrong answer to that. Answer could be yes. Once there is something really urgent that you need to work on, you can exceed these work limits. But with that thing, you cannot say that everything is urgent and then you have to always change WIP limits. You need to define explicit policies that for these are the various reasons when we can call this particular ticket as urgent, and you can define those policies at the beginning of starting a project. For example, one of the rule could be that there could not be more than 2 urgent items in a week, which is helping your team manage and define what could be an urgent item. And that is how the answer would be yes, you can break this rule and change the WIP limits, but that scenario should not be in general, but a very, very rare scenario. I think that's about Kanban board and about limits, which is the centerpiece of a Kanban board. If you have any further questions, type it in the chat window, chat box, or the comment section. Also put it in the comment section what else you want to learn in Kanban. In our next video, we'll be talking more about Kanban metrics and what is a Scrum Ban. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like the video, just give a like button and subscribe to the channel. This will really motivate us to create more and more content. Again, thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.